Hello, 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 and welcome to my humble kitchen. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm plant-based chef Amy Symington. So I'm a plant and animal lover, cookbook author, and nutrition professor and researcher here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. But I'm also the specialist for culinary specialist for HSI Canada, which is the reason why you're here today. So I'm just going to give a couple seconds to make sure everybody's joining us. I get a little bit of time to do that. Awesome. Okay, cool. So you're here for HSI Canada. So I am part of their amazing team, specifically their Forward Food team, which is a program that helps to support large food operations across Canada and chefs incorporate more tasty, sustainable, animal-friendly, plant-based cuisine into their menus through things like culinary demonstrations, recipe and menu development, and educational workshops. So I get to personally work with chefs across Canada just to get more fruits and veggies on menus like large institutions like universities, hospitals. And the best part about our services is that they are all free of charge. And we have endless resources and endless recipes, so feel free to check those out online. But the real reason you are all here today is because we are going to be joined by the multi-talented Lauren McNeill. So Lauren is a very good friend of mine. She is an amazing human. She's also a registered dietitian with a master's in public health, specifically in nutrition and dietetics. She is a recipe developer, a video content creator, a photographer, recently published cookbook author, which we'll talk a lot about today. She's a social media influencer. And as I said, she's an all-around just lovely human being. And her work focuses mostly on plant-based diets and providing evidence-based nutrition information that's equipped with, and I love this part, delicious and easy and affordable recipes. I know Lauren for many years, but specifically through her work and my work volunteering with the Toronto Vegetarian Food Bank. So it's just so nice to see how successful she's become over the years because she's just a great person who's super smart. So with that said, I will bring Lauren up. So hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us today. How are you?
Oh my gosh. Hi, Amy. What a sweet intro. It's so nice to see you. And thank you so much for having me here.
Oh my gosh. It's my absolute pleasure. So congratulations. We're going to talk about your book, baby. But just want to say right off the bat, congratulations. It's amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we'll jump right in. First, we'll talk a little bit about your background. And then closer to the end, we'll go into more detail about the fabulous book. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds great.
I've been plant-based for almost 18 years now, and it's for a variety of reasons. So things, I would say the holy trinity. So environment, health, animal welfare reasons, specifically health reasons after a family cancer diagnosis. But, and I've mentioned this in previous interviews, but the book, The Way We Eat, Why Our Food Choices Matter by Peter Singer and Jim Mason kind of shoved me in the right direction at the right time at that point in my life. So you have such a rich experience, background, educationally and otherwise, particularly in nutrition. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey to plant-based foods, becoming a registered dietitian, and how you first learned about the importance of eating and promoting plant-based foods?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you call it the Holy Trinity. That's amazing. I might steal that from you. That's so cool. So I have always been obsessed with animals. I mean, growing up, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to save the whales. And I have always just been such a big animal lover. And it was always in the back of my mind a little bit once I made the connection between the animals that I loved and the animals that people eat, that something wasn't totally matching up there. So it was something, when I was a teenager that was kind of on my mind, something that I thought about. But it wasn't until number one, my brother went vegetarian. And then number two, I read the book, The Kind Diet by Alicia Silverstone, which I think was kind of huge at that time. that I really decided that this was something that I could totally do and totally implement. So it started off by being vegetarian, and I had never really cooked before. I definitely wasn't a chef, definitely didn't know my way around the kitchen, but that book really inspired me to start to get a better connection with the food that I was eating and food that I was putting in my body. I grew up as a dancer and I remember eating like frozen pizzas and things like that at the end of all of my practices because I was so hungry, but never really thought about fueling my body. So that's when I really started to get interested in food. And at this point, I was going to university and doing a general sciences degree, wasn't super happy, and actually went to a career counselor who suggested that I go into dietetics. And at that time, it seemed like such an easy decision. Like, sure, I love food, so I'll go into dietetics. Little did I know that it is an extremely competitive field. So it's probably good that I didn't kind of have that perspective then. But that's when I really kind of dove into the health side of eating and what we were really putting into our bodies and how I can optimize that. And it slowly started my trajectory to more plant based eating and eventually going vegan as well. So it was a really slow and steady process of going from following an omnivorous diet to a vegetarian diet and then eventually vegan. It took me a long time, which is why I give so much empathy to people who are making that transition because it can be so tough. And that's when I really decided, that I wanted to dive into it as a dietitian to make that transition easier for other people as well, so that they maybe didn't have to take quite as long or could navigate the health and nutrition side of it a little bit more easily.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. I'm glad you did.
Me too. Me too.
You did such a beautiful job of that. And kind of on that note, so your following on social media has just absolutely exploded over the last few years for the reason that you just, your content is amazing. It's easy. It's approachable. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a plant-based influencer and why you tend to focus on all of those things that you just mentioned? So like simple plant-based recipes, of course, but affordability and just making it easy and accessible for people to take on.
Well, I'm happy that that comes across because that is my intention. So that's great. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
So I really like to think about what would have been super beneficial for me when I was starting my plant-based vegetarian vegan journey. And at that point, I was very confused about nutrition. I was trying all sorts of different kind of ways of eating to see what would help me feel good. I wasn't sure about taking vitamins and minerals, all that kind of stuff. So I really try and think about what I would have liked to see at that point. And when I was kind of starting my journey on social media, there weren't a ton of healthcare professionals who were talking about nutrition. There were absolutely, some holistic nutritionists or, vegan influencers or things like that, which are all amazing and a huge part of the movement as well. But I thought that I had a unique voice as a registered dietitian to be able to share the evidence-based information about plant-based nutrition and say, no, this isn't crazy. This isn't something that's super out there. This is something that's really well established in the research as something that's super beneficial for people. So that was really my lens when I was first starting and wanting to kind of debunk those myths and get that information out there.
I love it. I remember, just a side note, one of the presentations you did at is it the Canadian Plant-Based Conference? And you were so amazing, giving all like the basic information, like, yes, you can thrive and be extremely healthful on a plant-based diet. And actually that's where the evidence, and I love how you always mention that, the evidence resides, is that the more closer we get to a plant-based diet, the better we will be health-wise, but also obviously environmental wise as well. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you yourself and the whole plant-based nutrition food movement has mastered things like bowls, all the soups, burgers. You have so many great bowls, like so many great, like easy one pot, easy one bowl dishes that look absolutely incredible. There's things like, overnight oats. There's all these health food, plant-based trends that are out there. Where do you see, plant-based foods and plant-based nutrition going in the future?
I think that it's just going to become much more normal and much more accessible to people. I mean, thinking of you going plant-based 18 years ago, I'm sure that you have seen that trajectory, right? Of the availability of plant-based foods. Like, I know when I first started, it was like Eve's and Dio were like the only two brands that really carried,
Eve's veggie
any Exactly. Any sort of like meat alternatives or dairy alternatives. And now I feel like this space is just totally exploding.
Yeah.
And, I think there's absolutely a place for meat and dairy alternatives. Do I think as a dietitian they should make up the majority of our diet? Probably not. But I think even just having that accessibility to make our lives easier when maybe we're going out with friends or on a road trip or, on vacation, being able to make those choices that really align with our values is so amazing. So I can just see that becoming even more normal, whether it be at restaurants or grocery stores, wherever, even like fast food places, corner stores, whatever it might be. I can see that definitely being kind of the way of the future. And also just an acceptance within, communities of family and friends. I remember when I first went vegan, I have genuinely the most supportive family and friends. Like, I count my blessings. They're amazing. But people were like, okay, so do you eat butter? Do you eat eggs? Like, there wasn't the knowledge of what it was. And now I think it's just becoming and going to become much more mainstream.
I love that. I love that example. And I always like to share this kind of tidbit or anecdote. My dad, when I first told him that I was going vegetarian, not even vegan, vegetarian, he fully thought that I had been brainwashed and used that. I think he's mostly plant-based now, but he was like, I'm concerned. She's got, but things have really, yeah, as you said, exploded, and you put it beautifully. And I hope you are so right that it just becomes easier. It's like an apple is vegan, an avocado is vegan. These are just, we're not talking about rocket science here. We're talking about fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, whole grains, and good quality plant-based protein. It's not too crazy and newfangled. And I love that you do make it approachable in the sense that we can have those, ready to eat meat analogs, and it's not everyday food we should be consuming, but it's something that we should definitely. It's fun. It's food should be fun. Eating should be fun. That was great.
Yes, absolutely.
And then on that note, because you have some amazing tips and tricks on your Instagram account and on your website as well, just talking to, and you and I have talked about this to a great extent in the past, but can you share with our viewers, your hot tips for transitioning to a healthful plant-based diet?
Yeah, absolutely. We have had so many conversations about this. I'm sure you could give just as many amazing tips about this. But one of the first things that I really like to talk about, whether it be on social media or to my one-on-one nutrition counseling clients, even my online program, is thinking about what you're replacing your food with rather than just what you're taking away. So it can be really, I'm going to put quotations, easy to take away meat from the diet or take away eggs or dairy. But those foods do carry, certain nutrients that we need to make sure that we are replacing in our diet. So making sure that we are adding foods that are good sources of protein, like you just mentioned. So beans, legumes, tofu, tempeh, edamame, all that good stuff. Things that are going to provide calcium as well. So whether it be fortified plant-based milks, almonds, tahini, calcium set tofus, things that are going to be adding that nutrition back into your diet, just to make sure that number one, you're getting all of the nutrients that you need, but also that you feel nice and satisfied with your food, because that's something that I see as a huge barrier for people is not feeling that level of satisfaction from their food. And it could be because maybe they're not getting enough protein, maybe they're not getting enough healthy fats, and really just evaluating the diet in that way. Another tip that I like to give is try to start small. It's amazing if you want to completely overhaul overnight. Like, I love that excitement, but sometimes it's not super maintainable if you're used to eating a super meat, dairy, egg heavy diet. So thinking about, okay, is there one day a week that I can transition to a plant-based diet and it be really easy and I can test out, breakfast, lunch, and dinner options that would work well for me? Or is there maybe one, meal per week, whether it be breakfast every day, lunch every day, that would make the transition a little bit more easy to kind of approach? And then my third tip would be find easy swaps that you enjoy. I mean, there's so many amazing options, like we were talking about, and there's a lot of people on social media and websites talking about their favorite options for these types of foods. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, I could never give up cheese, there are so many amazing cheese alternatives these days. It's much different than it used to be. So try some out and see what you do enjoy. Like milk, to me, one of the easiest things to swap out because there's so many great alternatives. So find these alternatives, whether it be, ingredients or actual recipes for our favorite foods. And I know that's something that you do all the time, especially with your kids, like finding those alternatives that are really fun for them too.
Yeah, fun and nutrient dense. It can be both.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, those are such great answers. And I should say, please go check out Lauren on all the social media. She's got so many great tips and tricks, just like that one. That was just like a soundbite of all the information that she provides. She is an absolute wealth of knowledge. Okay, so here is we're here for you, obviously, but we're also here to talk about your book, baby. So first and foremost,
Yay.
Congratulations! Such a big deal.
Thank you.
Our hard work. I'm gonna grab my copy too. One sec.
Please do.
Yay! Check that
Yay.
out. Oh my goodness. Okay, so a lot of work, as we know.
As you know.
Yeah. Firstly, as someone who has a nutrition background, I love, of course, all of the types of whole food ingredients that you're using and that you focus on. You're really just honestly encompassing and mobilizing Canada's newish food guide. So, I mean, everybody's got to grab their own copy, but I love like the pictures. Like I don't want to give too much away there, but check that guy out. Come on. Beautiful, right? And I love, the layout, the recipes, everything sounds and just looks absolutely incredible and mouthwatering. I also really enjoy your suggestions for easy, affordable meal plans that are kind of tucked in the back there. So tell us more about this absolute beauty and what your inspiration was for it.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It was a lot of work. So my inspiration for writing the book was really wanting to combine the what and the how of plant-based eating. So there are a ton of amazing vegan cookbooks out there, like a ton who do it so well. But as a dietitian, I really wanted to talk about the nutrition of eating and what nutrients we needed to focus on, the balance of protein, carbohydrates, and fat in a meal, and really provide that information, which is in the front matter of the cookbook, and then take the recipes and implement what we've talked about so that you can be educated on how to eat a nourishing plant-based diet, but then feel really confident in making the recipes and knowing that you're getting what you need. So that was really the inspiration behind the book. And of course, I wanted it to taste amazing. But I also wanted most of the ingredients to be things that you can get at your local No Frills, which is somewhere that I shop all the time. Because, there, of course, there are some amazing plant-based or vegan products out there, but they can be more expensive. So what are the ingredients that we can use to make these recipes that taste amazing, that are super nourishing, but that won't break the bank as well?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's it. And too, everyone knows food inflation costs and things right now. It's just, so we want to make sure that it's affordable. And I love that. And same sort of along the lines of that, I always think of when I'm doing any sort of recipe development, I always think of Terry Symington in the like small local grocery store trying to find these, you know, these newfangled vegan ingredients. So you want to make sure that they're approachable and cost effective. Okay, so I know this will be a hard question, probably, but what can you just give us a couple like hints in terms of what your favorite recipes are in the book? Are there ones that you like, you need to make this one or these ones?
Oh my gosh, I anticipated that you would probably ask me this, and I was dreading it all the same because it's so hard to choose. I'm sure you know what I mean. You know what? There is one soup recipe, and I'm just looking for it right now. And it is a black bean tortilla soup, spicy black bean tortilla soup. And this recipe is incredible. And you know what? Like, I don't say that super often about my own recipes, but this one, I think I've made at least 8 or 9 times since the cookbook came out. And then obviously a bunch more times when I was testing the recipe. There's something about the way that the ingredients come together in this recipe that just is so good. You can tailor it to your, you know, specific wants and needs. If you like lime, if you like cilantro, if you want to add vegan cheese, eat it with tortilla chips. It's so good. And it has black beans in it, which are an amazing source of protein and plant-based iron. We pair it with canned tomatoes and lime juice to help to increase that absorption of the iron. So this one is so, so good. Now, if you are a sweets lover, I have these chocolate oat bars as well.
I was like, I am definitely taking those suckers. They look so good. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So
I, again, have made this so many times since the cookbook came out, obviously when I was testing the recipe as well. And what I really love about these is you probably already have most of the ingredients on hand for it because they're very simple ingredients, but they taste amazing. They're such a good dessert. They're amazing for like a little snack. You could even, you know, if you wanted to have it for breakfast, you probably could maybe add some fruit or something like that to it.
I like
but yeah, but those are some of my favorite recipes that are really simple and nourishing, and you probably have all of the ingredients already to make.
Love it. Okay, good tips. Those are the first two I'll make. I love to things like the black bean tortilla soup that you mentioned too. I feel like that's like one of those foods that you could just repurpose. Like you can have it for lunch, you could have it for a snack. I would. You could have it for dinner. You could put it over, you know, quinoa or something. You can, or maybe add it to quinoa and then put it in a wrap. Like I feel like you could repurpose it in so many different ways. Yum!
Yes.
Okay, where can we find your book?
So you can find my book pretty much anywhere that sells books. So places like Indigo, Chapters here in Canada, Barnes and Noble in the States, any Amazon will have it. And then if you can support your smaller bookstores as well, I know there's a lot around me that carry the book. So there probably are some around you as well that carry it. So just checking in with them. But yeah, pretty much anywhere you get books. And if you do go somewhere that doesn't have the book, you can always request that they get it in too.
Yes, good tip. I love that. Go into your bookstore, support the bookstore, and then also support Lauren at the same time. If you have to wait a couple of weeks, it's worth the wait. I promise you.
Thank you.
One final hard-hitting question for you before
Okay.
there are a couple comments that are coming into. I'm just seeing mostly people just loving you. Funny I'm making a tofu scramble as I speak, so some great little comments and questions there. But yeah, final hard-hitting question for you. So if you could provide one piece of advice for younger mini Laurens out there just starting out in the food and nutrition realm, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, what a question. You know what? I would say be authentic to yourself and to your messaging, whatever it is. If you're wanting to start in kind of the food and nutrition space, there are a lot of incredible people to kind of look up to and admire, but stay true to what you feel and what your messaging is. because, when I was younger in my dietetics career, I was really nervous about sharing the plant-based nutrition messaging for fear of judgment from other dietitians, which I'm sure wasn't valid, but something that I was putting on myself. And if I hadn't kind of pushed past that and taken the leap, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So that's one thing. If I was giving myself like a nutrition or, that kind of piece of advice, I would say take a vitamin B12 supplement because my mom was telling me to take a vitamin B12 supplement for years before I actually ended up taking one. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, as always, I should have just listened to her and what she was saying.
Your mom.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Oh, amazing. That's so great, and great advice. I want to be cognizant of time because we've actually gone over, but please, for those of you who ask questions specific to diet, check out Lauren's, again, social media website, Instagram account. She is a wealth of knowledge. And of course, buy her book because there's also a wealth of knowledge in the front pages, and then it's practically applied in her recipes. But yeah, so a huge thank you so much again for joining me, Lauren. It was such a delight, just to see you and chat with you, but an absolute treat for me to interview you. So thank you so much for all the amazing work that you do for our profession and the healthcare sphere and the plant-based sphere in general.
Oh my gosh, Amy, thank you so much. I admire you so much and everything that you've done in the plant-based nutrition space. So I love catching up with you and I appreciate your time so much.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, I will bid everybody adieu on that note, and and stay tuned for our next interview, which will be in a couple months. And take really good care, Lauren. We'll see you hopefully soon.
See you soon. Thank you everyone for coming. Bye.